All right, this morning we're going to be looking at if functions with absolute cell addressing using Microsoft Office Excel 2007. All right, so in order for me to explain how this works, we're going to be looking at an actual spreadsheet. All right, so in this spreadsheet, we have unique variety store, and this is their spreadsheet. They have their customers, the items purchased, the cost for each item, the quantity, the subtotal, discount, and grand total. Now, there are two things I'm going to cover in this class. We're going to be looking at absolute cell addressing, as well as, or absolute cell referencing, as it is also called, as well as if functions. We're going to do the two of them together. As I said earlier, for your assignment that is in the Google Classroom, you are supposed to work on the spreadsheets for, actually, we're going to be looking at this one right here, payroll with absolute cell referencing. And then you're going to be completing the B&D auto sales if functions and the discount if function. All right, so we're going to start by looking at the payroll with absolute cell referencing. And I'm going to just review some of the things that are on the Excel spreadsheet ribbon. Remember, students, that we have this entire section is the ribbon. We have several tabs on the ribbon: home, insert, page layout, formulas, data review, and view. In each tab, we have what we call groups. And we have groups, for example, clipboard, font, alignment, number, style, cells, and editing. Most of what we do for our spreadsheet will fall under home, insert, and data. Those are the three most common tabs that we tend to use. So let us follow the instructions. Let's follow the instructions. And it says, the first one says, in cell A4, type the word percentage, then type 13% in cell B4. So we look for A4, A, and then row 4, you're told to type the word percentage. So I type the word percentage in A4, and we're told to type 13% in B4, which I have done. Next instruction. Each employee has been given an increase of 13% on their salary. Calculate the increase, which is the heading here, and new salary, which is this, for the first employee. So whenever from a mathematical perspective, if they're telling us that each employee has been given an increase of 13%, then naturally what we would do is find 13% of the original salary. So 13% of this original salary will give us the increase that the employee has been given, right? And if we were to look at it from a mathematical point of view, when you go to your math class, your math teacher would say that 30% would represent 30 over 100 times the old salary, right? 30% over 100 times old salary. In this case, we would say we would not be writing 30 over 100 times the old salary. For a spreadsheet, once you have the 13 and percentage beside it, it has made the value a percentage, which means it's already converted the 13 into a percent, which is 13 over 100, right? And then that 13 over 100 would have been equal to 0.13. But we don't need to convert that 13% to 0.13. All we need to do, remember when we're doing formulas, is to use cell references. But the first thing that we type in any formula or function for spreadsheet would be the equal sign, if you recall. So we, instead of this cell for Jonathan, we put equal. And given that we're finding 13% of the old salary, but to calculate the increase, we say equal click on the cell that has the 13%. Then we use the asterisk to represent the off and the multiplication symbol. Then we click on the old salary, which is B6, and we press enter. And that is what you would normally do. And then the next step you would normally do is to autofill, which means we click in the first cell that has the formula, that is the same formula for the rest of the rows below it. And we put our mouse over the fill handle, that's this little box right here, the little black square in the lower right hand corner of the cell, and we put the mouse pointer over it until it becomes a black solid plus sign. Then we click on it, drag down to autofill. But you notice that it says hashtag value, and it has some 1.2 to the exponent plus 0.009, which obviously means that something is wrong. Let us see why. Let us look at this one. So if this one says the formula should be, notice the color B4 is in blue, so it references this cell, times B6, which is green. B4 times B6. Let us look at what the other one says. Can somebody tell me what the other one should say? What should be the formula for Paulette to calculate her increase? Somebody in the class, tell me what should be the formula for calculating the salary increase of Paulette? Equal B4 asterisk
Paulette B7.
B7. Okay, but what does this say, Shania?
B5 equal B5 asterisk B7.
So you notice that the cell reference, because we autofill and go down, all the cell references are going down, right? So the cell reference of percentage has moved down by one, has moved down by 1 to B5. And the cell reference of the old salary has moved on by 1 to B7. Now, it's fine for the B7 to move, but it is not okay for B5 to move, because we want this value to always be the same. It should always be 13%. So how do we fix that situation to ensure that when we autofill, this cell reference does not change? We do what is called absolute cell referencing. And with absolute cell referencing, we have a cell that is in a formula or function, and we don't want that cell reference to change. We want it to remain the same when right throughout the entire time when we are autofilling. So whenever we type that cell reference, what we need to do is to press F4. So I'm going to redo this formula so that you can see exactly what you're supposed to do. So let's retype the formula. I'm going to delete it and say equal B4. So once you click on the B4, you're going to press F4 on the keyboard. Now, F4 is a function key. And some of you may, I don't know if you have a desktop or a laptop. If you have a desktop, then the function key is separate. It's separate. But if you have a laptop, not all laptops have the function key separate. And you may have to press another key to get the function key. So on my laptop, I have at the bottom, that last row, it has a FN, which means function, which means that my function keys are being shared with other keys. So for me to press F4, I have to press FN and then F4. So notice when I activate the F4 function key, the B4 changes from B4 to $B $4. What this does, it says to Excel, do not change the column name. Do not change the row number. Therefore, when the formula or the function is autofilled, this value does not change. But remember, it is this cell times the salary. And then we press enter. So this value comes back correct. But when we autofill, let us see if it makes any difference. And there we have it. So you notice that we're not getting any strange figures now for the remaining persons. If we click here, you'll notice that the B4 remains the same, but what happens? The salary changes according to the person who we're dealing with, and it's the same thing for the rest. Only value that changes is the cell reference for the salary. The cell reference for the percentage for the increase remains the same, because that is exactly how we want it. All right, so we have done the next step. We have calculated the first person's increase, And we have also used autofill to copy the formula for the other employees. And if, of course, the little note says, notice what happens when the calculations for the remaining, when you do the calculations for the remaining employees, there's an error here. To fix this, we need to use absolute cell referencing. All right. Now, it says we are to insert the following text in cell A1 and A2 respectively. Your last name and then payroll, March 2020. So in A1, I'm going to put Pinnacle. And then in cell A2, payroll March, sorry, payroll March 2020. All right, that's that. So we're going to move now to the next instruction. It says make, oh, I skipped out number 4, I didn't realize. We're going to go back to that. Make the necessary adjustments to the formula. Oh, I did that already. So number 6, increase the font size to 15 and make the color of the first row purple. So for both of these, we're going to increase the font size to 15. So we highlight first, we highlight the cells that we want to make into font size 15. And then we're going to go to the font group, look for where we have the number, change it to 15. But notice we have 14 and then we have 16. Because there's no 15, we have to type in the 15. Then we're supposed to make the first row purple. So we highlight, go to the same font group again, click on the A that shows the font color, and then we select purple. Now it says bold the column headings at instruction number 7. So we're going to highlight the column headings. Notice, students, this is your highlight pointer, right? It's different from your autofill pointer, which is different from your move pointer. Just a reminder. So we've highlighted the headings and we're going to bold those headings. Then it says you're to right align all column headings except employee. So we're going to deselect the column headings. Then we're not going to highlight the employee heading. We're just going to highlight salary increase and new salary, and they tell us we are supposed to right align them. So we go to the alignment group and we look for the alignment options. This one is a left, center, right, and so we want to right align them. We go ahead and we click the right align option. Then now it says we're to format all numeric data except the key as currency with 2 decimal places, meaning all of these values right here are monetary values, and as such we want to make them into currency figures. To do that, we go to the number section, and we select drop down general and we select currency. Now there are 2 monetary formatting features. We can either use currency or accounting, but I prefer if you use currency. It doesn't matter if you use accounting, but if you're told to use currency, it's currency. Students, I want you in your own time to become familiar with the different formatting features that are in spreadsheet, because CXC likes to ask you which formatting feature was applied, whether it is currency, comma style, number, 2 decimal places, left align, right align, center. All of those things are important. So I'm going to select currency. Then it says merge and center the title rows of the spreadsheet. So that is this. So we have 2 title rows, which is Pinnacle and payroll March 2020. Now to merge and center, we need to highlight from A1 all the way to D1, because that is as far as the spreadsheet goes. Then we go to the alignment group and we click on merge and center. Do the same thing for payroll, highlight from A2 to D2, merge and center. It appears that there is no instruction to calculate. Oh, I forgot it. Where it says we're supposed to calculate increase and new salary. I had only calculated the increase. So I'm going to go ahead and go back and calculate the new salary. Can somebody tell me the formula that should be entered for calculating the new salary? I'm waiting.
Miss,
Yes.
Equal sum.
No, you don't need to use sum. I said you're supposed to use, you're supposed to use a formula. Sum is a function.
Okay, then so we can use B6
Equal B6
the plus sign
plus, yes,
and C6.
C6. Very good. And then all you need to do is autofill. No, I'm glad that Shania made that mistake, because a lot of students don't remember that there's a difference between a formula and a function. Formulas are predefined. Sorry, not formulas. Functions are predefined entities inside a spreadsheet that carry out certain calculations for you without you having to do the work. Now, the formulas are the ones that you come up with depending on the need for your calculations in spreadsheets. So when we have equal B6 plus C6 or equal B4 absolute times B6, those are formulas. But your function now are things like your sum, your average, your min, your max, which are things that we would have covered in previous lessons. Now, the last thing says where to save the changes. So I would just go ahead, click on the office button, and then click on save and save it in my documents folder, or save it in a folder that has my spreadsheet files. I'm not going to go ahead and save this right now, but you would go ahead and save yours. But please remember that you're supposed to do the activities on sheet 2, which is B and D auto sales if functions, as well as sheet 3, which is discount if functions. And those are supposed to be submitted to me. All right. Now we're just going to recap for the sake of the persons who came to the class late. And I will allow you to ask any questions that you wish. In today's lesson, we were looking at absolute and relative cell addressing. Not relative, absolute cell addressing with if functions, right? And, oh, guys, I just realized something. I have if functions here, but but I didn't use the if function. But it's okay. It's really absolute cell referencing. I'll do the if function afterwards. So payroll absolute cell referencing. So normally when we type a formula, we would type it one time, which in this case, we want to say the increase is 13% of the person's salary. So we say equal B4 times B6. However, we can't just type the B4 like that, because we're going to be autofilling. And when we autofill, this B, if we had typed it equal B4 times B6, this B4 would have changed from B4 to B5 for the next person and to B6 for the next person, which would cause an error. In that case, what we need to do is to change this cell reference to absolute, in which case we have already done that. So we say equal, we click on B4, but we press F4 to make it absolute. So it becomes equal $B, $4 times B6. So that is your absolute cell referencing on your autofill. Now, the other thing that we did was we calculated the new salary, which is equal to the old salary plus the increase. All right. We merge and center the heading, the first two headings. We change the font color to purple. We set the formatting for the monetary figures to currency by going to the number group and selecting currency. We didn't do one thing, which is to adjust the width of the column. We don't want it that wide. So remember, there are two ways we can adjust the column width. We can either put the cursor in between the two columns and double click. In this case, it would make it too wide. We don't want that, because it's going to make it as wide as the instructions down here. What we want it to do is to just be able to show all the employees' names. So in this case, we wouldn't double click. We would click and drag to the right to make it wide enough. So I'm going to move on now to the if function. So this spreadsheet looks at the absolute cell reference, but the B and the auto sales looks at if functions. All right. Now, here we have again two different, in this case, we have two percentages, rate 1 and rate 2. Rate 1 is for persons who have a certain sales figure, and rate 2 is for persons with a certain sales figure. Now it says here, instructions, calculate each employee's commission. Note, if an employee has a monthly sales that is greater than 15,000, their commission is calculated at rate 2. Otherwise, it is calculated at rate 1. Calculate each employee's commission. For us to be able to do this, we have to use an if function. Now, when we talk about an if function, we're talking about a function that allows us to have more than one choice. But how does if function look? The if function says, it says first thing equal, then we have if, right? Equal if, we double click on if. It takes 3 arguments, the logical test, and it produces the value if true or value if false, if depending on whatever happens with the logical test. So with the logical test, if the test works out to be true, then this value here is put into the cell, and if it is false, this value here is put into the cell. Please remember, students, that the value if true and the value if false can be done more than one way. It can be a calculation that you have to do if this logical test is true, right? And if you have a calculation here, you can have a calculation here, you can have a word here. You can have a word here, you can have a calculation. You can have a value, and you can have it can be a combination, but it all depends on what down here the instruction says. In this case, they're saying if the employee's monthly sales is greater than 15,000, then their commission is calculated at 15%. Otherwise, your commission is calculated at 10%. So right away, we know that we have 2 calculations, one for the value if true and one for the value if false. So let us look at how we do it. So we're told to calculate commission. So first thing, we click in the first cell for Samuel Sharp, we put equal, then we put if. Then we click on the if function. Then it says logical test. So that's the first thing we have to do. In the logical test, we are told in instruction that if an employee's monthly sales, which would be, in this case, B8 for Sam Sharps, if monthly sales is greater than, we use the greater than sign, 15,000. That's what it says in the instruction. If the monthly sales is greater than 15,000, then the commission is calculated at rate 2. So in order for us to differentiate between the different arguments, we have to put a comma. We have to put the comma, and spreadsheet tell us, see, logical test, comma, value if true, comma, value if false. So we put in our comma. What should we do if this logical test is true? It says we're to calculate commission at rate 2. So we say, how do we calculate anything? We say equal. And the commission is calculated by multiplying the rate by the monthly sales. So equal rate 2, which is 15%, times the monthly sales. But guess what? If you autofill it, this value for rate 2 is going to keep going down. We don't want that to be the case. So what we do, when we click on rate 2, we make it absolute by pressing the F4 key on the keyboard, right? That way, this rate will always remain the same. Then we put a comma. So in this case now, if this value or logical test rather is not true, it is false. So if it is false, then we are going to multiply it by, calculate it using rate 1. Guys, I have only 10 minutes, so I'm going to move up very quickly. So we say equal rate 1, press F4 on the keyboard, multiply by the monthly sales, and we close the bracket and press enter. So it says I have an error here, equal times B8. Let me just type it quickly again. All right, that should be it. What am I leaving out? Let me try the entire function again. All right, there we go. So that is the calculation for Samuel Sharp. Then we go ahead and we autofill it, right? So the next one now is the same if function, but we're doing it using, instead of using calculations, we're going to use words. So the first thing we do is the employee is supposed to be either a star employee or an average employee. How do we know that? It says determine each employee's status. If an employee's monthly sales is 50,000 or more, he or she is referred to as a star employee. Otherwise, he or she is an average employee. So we follow the instructions again. Equal if it says if the monthly sales is 50,000 or more. So if this monthly sales is greater than or equal to 50,000, the greater than or equal to represents 50,000 or more, then comma. Then the person, so if this is monthly sales is greater than or equal to 50,000, then the person is a star employee. So we have, when we're using words, notice I put it in double quotation, not two single quotation, but double quotation. And if the person is, sales is less than the 50,000, then that person is just an average employee. Then we close the bracket, press enter, and we see the results come out. Then we autofill, and that's it. Now, it says here to calculate the total sales for the month, so that we have total sales here. So in this area we're going to calculate the total sales. We can simply use the sum function. So we say equal sum, and then we highlight from B8 to B13, close the bracket, press enter. That's the total sale, monthly sales. All right, so it says we're to use the count if to count the number of employees who are star. So we're going to use count if. We say equal count if, double click on the count if, we highlight the range of cells, right? Then we put comma, and then in quotation marks, we type in exactly how we have it in the spreadsheet, star employee, close quotation marks, close the bracket, and then we press enter. Oops, sorry. I think there should be an equal here.
Miss, you have start employee.
Oh, hold on, Shania. Kind of running. I'm losing time, so I'm forgetting. I have start. Oh, I have start. Oh, I see what you mean now. Oh, let me come out of this and fix this then. Thank you very much, my dear. All right, so notice that it is showing one at this point in there because there's only one star employee. There's only one star employee. All right, so now the last thing we're told to do is to format the money values to currency, which I'm going to just highlight these two columns, and we're going to go to the general section here, and we're going to change it to currency. All right, so I think that's the last thing. And then you'd have saved the if file as if functions underscore your name, and that would have been it. Oh, let me set this one as well to currency. And that is your spreadsheet. You can go ahead and bold, change the font color and all of that. But because the time is upon us, I'm going to just review for the if function, and then we end the class. So remember that your if function takes 3 arguments. If we say equal if, the first argument is a logical test. And the logical test is usually involving things like a greater than or equal to sign and less than sign and things like that. Then the logical test is separated with a comma. Then we have the value if true. If the value of true or value false can be a calculation, or it can be a word, or it can just simply be a value, it can be 0 or a letter. It just depends on what the instruction says. After you have put in a value if true, then you put in a comma, and then after the comma, you put in a value if false, and then you close the bracket. Press enter, and then you autofill. Are there any questions before the class ends? I have 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Any questions, guys? All right, if there are no more questions, I'm going to stop the video at this time.